And I think that now I'm watching a progress bar, but this little thing says live. So I'm not sure if we start recording at the end of the progress bar or there we go. Now we should be recording. All right. Teaching Tuesday. Yay.
Yay. So y'all got a question or two?
I had a couple of things written down. Some of them don't make sense to me now because I wrote them a while ago. But there was one that an issue that we'd put on Teams. The download screen has a checkbox to include an editable version of a PDF template when you're using a PDF template. And when I tried that and mailed it to myself, I couldn't make changes to the answer fields in the version that's emailed to the user. And Matt and I had a conversation, and he thought it would be helpful if we could go over a step-by-step how-to and how to create an issue in GitHub for something like this.
Nice. So that's two great things to cover, I think. One is, what does that interface look like? And maybe there's a bug and we can explore that. And the other, which is faster, so maybe that can be first, is how we can create a bug, an issue in GitHub. So because this is the assembly line project, do you want to open up GitHub and we can, this is being recorded, so whatever you feel comfortable.
If Matt's there, I don't use GitHub. So
Okay.
if Matt wants to share his screen, are you there, Matt?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you were muted, so I didn't know if you'd stepped away for a minute.
I'm not sure you can make a report, an issue in GitHub without a GitHub account, but maybe Matt can open up a incognito window, which is very poorly named.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if y'all also if y'all don't want to just have your GitHub stuff recorded, like why could we could at least, like, because GitHub does also have it in a feature where if someone else makes an issue and you find that issue, you can like essentially also get notifications for when that issue is fixed.
Oh, cool.
And so we could all, there are a few different ways to go through this.
Okay. Should we try incognito to see if, I don't think a person who does not have an account is able to make an issue. I can do that real quick. I'm right there. Is that what you said? Or is that correct?
Yes, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's correct. You need a GitHub account to make an issue. If you click the new issue when logged out, it says pick a username.
Okay.
So
if you are not logged into GitHub, you cannot make an issue. If you are logged into GitHub, is that something you're interested in seeing as well, Audrey, Matthew? Matt? Oh, getting formal.
Yeah, I think so. Although we haven't used it much, Audrey, we will set you up with a GitHub account at some point. So, but I'm happy to share my screen. I'm logged into my GitHub account if we want to use that
Perfect.
to make the issue.
Perfect.
All right. Can you see it?
We can. Perfect. So what you would do is you would start by finding the repository that you want to add the issue to. And you might be able to do that with assembly line by going to the documentation. And there should be a link somewhere there to our repository, probably on the introduction page.
Right. So I think
oh,
it
you're
is
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Suffolk Lit, and you can find Suffolk Lit Lab and just look at what's there. Yep.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry, I cheated. I jumped ahead. I knew where I wanted to go,
perfect.
but
Perfect.
yes. But you're right. We should have the URL of the repository from the package.
Right. Yep. So, and that as well, you're right. So you would then hit issues, which is in that, see where code is, right? Issues right there. Perfect.
Okay, great. So first, Audrey, did you see how we got here?
I think so. Yep.
Okay. Well, if you go to
Well, we can
GitHub,
see the video afterwards.
Yeah.
So,
and you're
Yeah.
here in GitHub, and you go to Suffolk Lit Labs account
Which-
area, and the
can see.
repositories. Yeah. Yes, up
you
here.
can also search for Suffolk Lit Lab, I believe, in GitHub.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we know your question is about a page in the assembly line, the download page. So we would click in there. And then now we're going to go to issues. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. And then you would hit new issue. Now, GitHub has a lot of really good documentation. So if you were to just search GitHub make new issue, you would probably find documentation for making a new issue on a repository.
Okay.
Just FYI. So now you can hit new issue.
Okay. Before we do
And-
that,
Yep.
Can I ask a question? It seems like it'd be good practice to check
search,
if
let's search.
someone has already reported this issue.
Right.
So
So
should
what I
we
would
take a
suggest
look?
is deleting. Well, you can just yeah, search for something. You can search for, I don't know, in this case you can figure out.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's on the download screen.
So there's 6 open issues, and there are also 4 closed issues, which is good to check as well, because if something was closed, it might be a won't fix, or, this is how you
Right.
do a thing, right?
Gotcha. Okay. So I don't see it in any of these. These don't appear to be related to the question. So Audrey, this is the issue where we want to remove the option, the checkbox that says email an editable version of the form.
Right. When you're using a PDF template. Yep.
Right. Okay. So I don't. Let's see. No. And I guess I could also check for like editable. Is that the word it uses? The language. Well, here's one, email documents UI.
And I can tell you what this is, which is just when you wouldn't know without reading through it, but this was the kind of decision about what the email UI would look like.
Okay.
So
Okay, great.
that is not quite going to be in here.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So we'll pretend we've done an exhaustive search. I think we have done a pretty good search, but it doesn't seem
Yeah.
like it's there. Okay, so we can go ahead and click new issue then.
Yep. And Bryce added a link to the creating an issue in GitHub to that documentation, but Ecoging it or Googling it will do just as well.
Okay, great.
So now
So
you
is
kind
there
of
what's our convention for describing an issue if we have one?
there isn't really. You can, if it's a feature or a bug, you can start with feature or bug, like if you're requesting a new feature, but otherwise you just kind of ask your question, right? Like you'd like a feature request, we'd like a new feature, then start with feature or that, yep, or feature request.
Make email.
All right, cool.
Is that
And yep,
seem
and I
okay?
mean, if you have a specific interface you'd like to see for that, like how that might look to you, like what would be a convenient way, then you can also comment on it there
Okay.
and describe that. Or and it helps if you describe the current situation, so we know, yes,
Okay.
you are seeing what we think and there's not something else weird going on. So if you can describe kind of
Yeah, I
what
would
is
say like in
happening
this case specifically, like like probably I'll first ask the question of going to Teams and sort of like asking like, hey, is there a way to do this? We're not really sure. And then Michelle and I were both sort of like, yeah, there's not quite a way to do this yet. We could probably make one. And at that point, I would just say like we asked on Teams, including that picture that I think Audrey included in the same when y'all are asking the question itself would be really useful. Just because anyone who's looking at the issue can glance at it and know, oh yeah, I've seen that checkbox that says include an editable copy right below my downloads thing. Pictures, I think, of interfaces are just always good.
Yes.
And yeah.
And like, just to, yeah. Okay, and okay, keep going. When you're done, we'll talk about kind of,
I'm just,
yeah. Okay. So one thing is, I assume you mean a parameter to the method, to a method or to a function. But, is it a,
right.
Like to the function of like inserting the email. The other thing is, can we make this checkbox optional? Well, the checkbox is optional to the user. So the question is, do you intend to say, can we allow the developer to choose not to display the checkbox or to make it look disabled, or what is the outcome that you would want to see, right?
Yeah. I'm just going to leave out the solution because maybe someone is not familiar with all of how it is done behind the scenes.
Well, but that's okay. What you can say is, for me, a convenient solution would be a parameter in the function that creates the checkbox, right? Like our feelings are not going to be hurt or anything, right? And
right.
If we see this, we're not going to go, okay, we'll definitely use that solution no matter what consequences there are. It'll just help us understand your perspective and what interfaces you find useful. And then we may say, well, that's not really achievable while, maintaining other things that we want to maintain. So we're going to try and do it, but we can respond to your issue. It's not problematic.
Okay.
Alternatively, since I know there was the original question was, how do I do this in the first place? You might not have just an idea off the top of your head of, oh, I would like to do it this way. And so in that case, I feel like it's if you don't have an idea, just sort of you could just no need to sort of add that section. And then when we're doing it, we might be it just in the as a response to this issue, we'll probably be oh, we could do it several different ways and chat amongst ourselves. And also you can always chime in as well again and sort of say oh yeah, this one suggestion that Michelle had earlier was a really good idea of how to it would be very easy for us to use that for interviews.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a conversation. It's not a victim, and you include whatever information, as much perspective as you can, but there's nothing you're required to put in there.
Okay.
The other thing here is to note that for PDFs, these are not always editable. And to me, that's unclear whether that means some PDFs you do not want to allow them to be editable, or if there's a bug that's separate from this, that is sometimes when the user selects to, get an editable copy, they do not receive an editable copy, which is a bug in the system, right? So that's kind of, so one, a bug in the system is a separate issue that would be a bug. And two, understanding for PDFs, these are not always editable. Is it for PDFs, we don't want them, for certain PDFs, we don't want them to be editable? Or is this something, a behavior that is pre-existing? Right?
Right. So on that, all I know right now is that the PDFs we're making, they're not editable.
When
I
you
don't know.
receive them.
I don't know that any other developer is not creating programs that whose output is like a fillable PDF or some other kind of
Sure.
editable PDF. So maybe you would say, you'd have the checkbox that says, yes, email me editable versions of my forms, and it could be a PDF that was editable. So
right now that it's not working for the forms that you have tried.
Right. I guess maybe what I could do instead is just to say, this is what I want to do. I don't know about the whole universe and I don't really care about it. I just want to have this option for me. And that'll maybe avoid a lot of the confusion.
Yeah.
That's exactly
an
what you should
issue
do
is
in an
about
issue.
you. It should be very
Okay.
specifically about your situation. So if you are experiencing a situation where the feature just isn't working, then you should say that. And if you're, if what you're expressing is your own desire, then you should definitely express that.
I think I would have just written in a very elementary school way, can you take the checkbox off the download screen when I'm using a PDF template? It seemed that the issue, Matt, I don't know if you remember, I think I was sharing my screen when we were dealing with this. And when I opened this editable copy that I had emailed to myself, I was able to cross out the answers, but I wasn't able to replace the answers or change the text that was in the fields. So first of all, it's good to know I don't have to be, if I create one of these, I don't have to be really specific. But I also wanted to tell you what it was that we found, what it looked like when we tried to send ourselves an editable PDF. I could only cross things out with an ugly red line. So
really, I have never even seen that behavior in a PDF. So, but I'm not very experienced with PDF, so I'm not surprised that there's a behavior that I don't know. But,
I know less about them, but
excellent. So that's definitely something to look into, and something that I would even say is a bug. But if you don't file it as a bug, that's okay. We can identify that later.
Yeah.
But that way of saying it, Audrey, is very useful. That kind of plain language, just, can I do exactly this thing? And then if we feel that that is not something that can be done, then that will be the discussion, right? Because it doesn't matter right now when you're writing it, what it is. Don't try and guess what we can or can't do. There's no way to know. So just tell us what's going on with you, and then we can react to that in whatever way we react.
So with that in mind, is there a way that who posted this so you can get back in touch with us through Teams if you need more information?
Yes, or we can post a reply here. So we can post a reply here that says, hey, could you add some clarification? But
when you create an issue, you will get notified when the issue is updated. So that's,
which I think is why you need to have an account. So that one, it says who made the issue. What?
I think that in another decade, Caroline and I set up a GitHub account having to do with the website that I manage, but Matt and I haven't been using it yet with this DocAssemble project. So I think, in fact, I have an account in terms of a sign in and password. It's just that I haven't been using it for these projects.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. I actually have to hop off, so I'm going to let you all take
okay.
over.
Thanks, Michelle.
All right, thank you. Goodbye.
the one thing that Michelle said, which was really helpful in describing the issue, is I think differentiating between what we'd like the developer to be able to see and do, and also what we hope that the user can then see and do as a result of the change, because those, we're talking about not just what I want the program to look like when it's done, but also what options I want to have as a developer. So that was a really good point that she made. I just wanted to include that, or highlight it, so I can hopefully I will remember it in the future when I'm creating issues. All right. So is there more that I should do here? Should I look for that little screenshot and paste it in here?
Oh yeah, screenshot's always a good idea. Not absolutely required. Like this one is very clear, I think. If you're trying to show how something looked incorrect, a screenshot would be really helpful.
Yeah.
This is obviously really easily reproduced.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say with features, screenshots might be nice, but they're not useful. Bugs, they're generally much more helpful.
Okay. All right, good. Well, then I'll just skip it for now. All right, is there anything more I need to do before I submit my new issue?
No, yeah, none of the other stuff on this page is really like if you're just making an issue for yourself, none of the others, you don't need to worry about too much other stuff. Yeah, so you just press a new issue. And then boom, and now you'll be, and if for some reason you can always, like if you notice that, like let me get little pointers. But yeah, if you notice like you misspelled something in your title, you can always click the edit button there. If you click those 3 dots on your comment, you can also like just edit your comment to like, just if you misspelled something, or, oh, I didn't actually paste in the right link or something. You can always just click those 3 dots and then click edit. But otherwise, yeah, you'll like this is the issue. And then we actually, I can sort of in live updates sort of stuff like this. We'll so after you, I guess the general workflow for the issue is right after you will make it, we'll generally look at it. We'll look at it. I'll go ahead and like, you'll see, I don't know how many things you get email updates for and how many you don't, but in general, you might get just GitHub notifications for someone's been assigned to this. And then this is a enhancement request. And so I'll just sort of go through and add some stuff, add some helpers on our side to help us sort of like go see. And if I were to make a comment or close an issue, I think you definitely would get a GitHub email notification that says, I got like, or that just I think it's just the content of the comment. Or if it's closed, it says like this issue is now closed. And yeah, I think that's mostly like, that's how you make issues.
Great. Well, that's helpful to me.
Yeah, I think they actually did just added this, and it might be, it might change how you do things. So if you like, so let's say like you had another bug to make an issue with instead of like just feature request, if you hit new issue again, I think I just added, yeah. So this is a slightly different thing than what we just had, which I realize is a little confusing. So before it would just spit you out to a blank screen, but now we've added, GitHub has what are called templates. And so if you know it's a bug report, you can click get started on the bug report. That doesn't automatically make one, but it instead just spits you out to like the next make an issue screen, but it has a lot of like steps and things we would need to reproduce the bug, sort of just laid out for you already. And you can click it, you can click get started. It doesn't like automatically make one, but it just shows of like, hey, this is all the information we need. We need to like know what it is. If you could give us some reproduction steps, that would be like very useful, and etc.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then if you just go back and to get to the, if like it wasn't a bug, but it was a feature, but we didn't have an option for a feature yet, or it's just something you didn't do, if you go click the back button, I think in your browser. And then at the bottom, it says, yeah, I don't see your issue here, open a blank issue, and that gets you to the exact same page that you saw before.
Great.
Yeah.
That's good. Audrey, does that answer the questions you had too?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, thank you. That answers the question, and then we'll have this to refer to. Thanks.
Hey, Bryce, I have a question for you. So for, I saw on that one, you made yourself the assignee. Is it just open to the community to come in, and if they see a particular issue that they think that they know the answer to the resolve, they can assign themselves and go ahead and give a resolution, or?
Yeah, so anyone in the community can come in and I think make comments on issues. I forget what exactly you can and can't do, and I think it depends sometimes on like the repository settings of whether the owner of the repository has said other people can come in and do these things. I think if you make the issue, you can always, I think you can assign yourself. I would need to actually find a repository that I don't own to test that out on. But I'm pretty sure that you should be able to at least make yourself the assignee. But I think like in general, if you go to someone else's issue, you can't directly like mark yourself as the assignee for that issue, but I think it is generally like most people in the community will say, like, if they see an issue that like they're also facing, they'll comment and say like, hey, like I'm thinking of working on this. I think I have a good idea of how to fix it. And then at that point, we'd probably notice they comment they wanted to help out, and we'll be like, oh, this would be great, thanks. Like I can mark you as the assignee and like answer any questions you might have, just to show that someone is working on it. Since I think the general idea is that if a issue doesn't have an assignee, then there's no one actively working on it, and so it's sort of like up for grabs. And if it does, then no, there's not a general need for like too many cooks in the kitchen, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry, that was.
And Tony, if your question was just about like the settings we use, I think anybody in our organization is allowed to assign themselves, for sure. I don't know if someone who's not part of the Suffolk Lit Lab organization would be able to assign themselves to an issue.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
I think most people who are writing, at least most people in the assembly line project who are writing their own interviews are part of the organization.
Thanks. Audrey, did you want to ask any other questions if you had more, if we're ready to move on?
I'd looked at my questions, but I don't think I'm ready to ask them just yet. Do you remember any other ones?
I don't recall the ones that we encountered when we were working on your program.
Seems like we resolved a few of them that we thought were going to end up as Teaching Tuesday questions.
Right.
There was one, I don't even know what this means now because we wrote it so long ago, but maybe you do. Something about having an instruction sheet not show on a preview. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I think I do. And I think that just means on the preview screen, you'll show one document, maybe the standalone version of the form.
Right.
And then, but then when you are assembling the final version, it will include the instructions sheet.
What I've been doing is just attaching the instruction sheet as the second page. So it's a single document.
No, that's a great question, Audrey, I think. Let's see. So if you take a look at one of the YAML files that you've been editing, which has an instruction sheet as part of the document. then we could probably like dig into that a little bit. And Bryce, I think I actually have a question about, this is a behavior I haven't really played around with too much, but so we have two, like, we call them bundles. So it's like a group of documents that you want to assemble and do something with that are predetermined. So one is for the user and one is for a court. I think in some cases you might want to have a different bundle or set of documents that you would give like to an opposing party. Michael Hofrichter had given an example like on Slack a while ago of a situation where he wanted like 10 different bundles of documents for different situations. And I forget, some of them representing different kinds of service that you might want to do. I don't think they all needed to be bundles. I think sometimes it's just different documents are enabled in different circumstances. So it would be a little bit different. So I think that what you'd probably want to do for your situation, because I had the same need on a form with a cover page, is to show the court bundle on the preview page, and then to just show the user bundle on the download screen, if that makes sense. And then the way that we currently handle adding a cover page for the court, which would go with a form that was automatically submitted to the court by email, which is really just kind of a legacy thing for our project, is that we make a third, it's a temporary bundle that it creates, right, Bryce? I think I remember seeing this code that you had edited when you were migrating stuff over to AL document for the send to email code. It creates another bundle, I think, right? A bundle of the court bundle plus the cover page for the court bundle.
Yes, yeah.
So that's kind of handled transparently for you if you're using our send to court code by email, which I know that you probably are not in other of your jurisdictions. But you could use other kinds of, there's no reason you have to use the court bundle, like if you're, but I think it's just kind of there and it's maybe a convenient feature to have because it's generated by the Weaver for you. So if you open up the YAML, we could look at it a little bit more closely and hopefully it will stick a little bit better when you're seeing the code, I think.
Can I also mention something, and maybe you do this as well, but I use the PDF concatenate function. So basically it just has one template that's just instructions and one template that's the form. Mm-hmm. And then when we're building the preview, we would maybe just show one of them. And then when we do the download page, it would combine both.
That sounds like the simplest solution based on what I'm doing right now, because we don't e-file. And some of these are interviews are just letters that a tenant has to send to a landlord asking for their security deposit back or whatever. So I don't know, Matt, do you want to talk to me about that code separately?
Yeah, we can.
If you want, I can show you kind of what I'm talking about too. If you don't have a good, maybe pull up.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to. I want to see what Quentin was going to show us too. But I just wanted to bring up. I think there's also another way that is available.
Okay, because what I'm doing right now is very simple, without lots of bundles. So you want me to share my screen so you can see the YAML file? Is that right?
Sure. Yeah, let's take a look at that. And actually, what we kind of had created these bundles for, I know it sounds complicated. I don't think it's as complicated as it sounds, but the goal there is very much to simplify your use of multiple files.
Okay.
Hopefully we succeeded. I think we overall did, because what we found is when we had a large interview that used a lot of different PDF concatenates, it just became tricky to keep those all fresh. That was one of the biggest problems.
Right.
That like if you click back to edit something, that you'd have a stale version of the file somewhere. Dealing directly with the concatenation was a little clunky. So the bundles are just an abstraction over that. In the background, it does do PDF concatenation. But So, and you don't really need to worry about the fact that one is called a court bundle, because you can use it for any purpose that you want. It's just
So
the
do you-
fact that you have a different set of documents. It's the same documents, and whether they're turned on or turned off is controlled by the same code. So you don't have to worry, like, let's say you have an optional file that's just used in some circumstances, but it's always optional, whether it goes to the court or the user is going to be controlled by the same logic.
Okay.
You can put them in the same bundle, in two different bundles. They'll be turned on or off at the same time without having to worry about editing the code to match the same if statements in the two different places you combine the files.
Okay. So do you want me
Yeah.
to go down to the download screen? Is that where all this is?
Yeah. So if you just search for AL underscore a user bundle there, see? So this is the preview bundle right now that you're looking at. And if we search for the next reference, we'll find where it's defined. We'll keep going a little bit more. And okay, it's down there at line 516, I think.
Okay.
So see, we've created two bundles there. One has, they both just have one file in them. So it has appearance, tenant, attachment,
Right.
right? You can see that inside the square brackets. That's where it's saying what documents are part of this bundle.
This one.
Mhm. Exactly, yeah. So that's the user bundle. And underneath is the court bundle. And that one, you know, you could have different files that you want to send to the court at times. Like, I'm not sure if that would come up very commonly other than this coverage being different. So just by change, and this is actually a change that we're planning to make in the Weaver already. I think I have an open issue for it. We would just have on the preview screen, you would reference the AL court bundle. Right now it says AL user bundle in both places. And you would edit the AL user bundle so it has the cover page. Does that make sense? So your
Yes.
cover page would just be one more element in that list right next to, and you wouldn't reference it in the court bundle. So you'd have one bundle with the cover
that's
page,
the-
one without.
That's on the preview. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay.
So that is, I think, the way that that seemed the most elegant to solve that issue of not wanting to have the cover page on the preview screen. Because I think you're totally right. That doesn't make sense to show it there. So
Okay.
yeah, like on line 237, just change the word user to court. And
So
that the fact that it says court is totally irrelevant. It doesn't really change anything about
Right.
whether this is a court form or not. You could use the same code.
Okay.
Yeah, so just edit user to court.
Okay. And then I will make sure.
You
so
could
that-
safely make this change now, even though it's not something that you're doing in this form right now, but because they're the same bundles, basically. They have the same files in them.
So right now, change it to court.
You could safely do that, yeah. And then
Okay.
let's say you wanted to show different files on the preview screen than the download screen, you would just change which files are part of each bundle.
Okay.
Can you show us how to add an additional one? Because right now it looks like it's set up to just have a single doc
Sure,
template.
yeah. Well, let's go look for, in the search box, search for the AL document with capital ALD. And you'll jump to that where that's defined. Okay, so we have our appearance form defined right there on line 513. And you would essentially just copy and paste line 513 to reference your other attachment file. And the attachment file is, you create the object here, and then if you scroll down to where that attachment part of it's referenced, that's done on line 520. See,
520.
I can show you on a form that already has a lot of optional documents, and it actually has this exact code that I've been talking about too, for using the court bundle on the preview screen.
So then I have two more questions. any of these documents that we're referencing would be uploaded in the template file, is that right?
Yes, exactly.
And does it matter if it's
Unless, no, that's the right answer. Sorry. I don't need to get into the nuance. Yes.
does it matter at all whether one is a PDF? What if the form itself was a PDF template and the instructions were a docx? Does that involve anything
That
else?
does not matter. You
Okay,
can mix
good.
and match.
Okay, great.
Let's see. So yeah, let me open up. So like I just did this name change petition, which used a bunch of optional documents. So I'll
So you
show
wanna
you
Stop.
what that looks like. Okay, so some of these are defined inside the same file and some of them are defined in another included file. So you can see here, I have a bunch of includes. We have this carry release form, affidavit of indigency, which is an offer potentially, the motion to waive publication. But let me see. So the big thing is you want to see is really just using the cover page instructions. And that's what's right here. It's a really simple attachment block because I don't need to provide a list of fields, for example, like I do with the PDF. There's not really any options to it other than the name of the file and the name of the variable. So right here, I define the object. And that's a little bit of boilerplate that you need to create. But basically, I just would say copy and exist the working one and edit it. And then here I'm defining the attachment that goes with the object. That does have to be in a separate block. Again, relatively simple boilerplate though there. And then here is what I was talking about. So the only difference between the user bundle and the court bundle here is this next steps attachment is the first file in the user bundle, but it's not part of the court bundle at all. This never gets sent anywhere. At this point, this form is just something people can download. But on the preview screen, I'm referencing the court bundle only because it doesn't have that next steps attachment in it. And then on the download page, everything references the user bundle. So this lets you be like really modular about the different attachments. And so let's look at this motion to waive publication. This is an optional form that people can add to their pleading if they want to have publication of their name change waived. They just ask for that here. And all of the attachment information is right here in this file. And actually, look, if you'll see here, there's multiple documents that are part of this. There's the family law motion, and there's the affidavit that goes with it. That in itself could be a bundle, although I don't think I'm doing that here. The point is like, those could be nested. You don't have to know the internal organization of the different modular includes. But really the point here is like, I could have this optional attachment that goes with a bunch of different forms in its own package. I can have my own logic and my interview that controls whether it's needed in this person's case or not. And not have to really know how what variable names it's using other than like the one that represents the bundle, and whether it's turned on or not. Bundles can be turned on or off as well, the same way that an individual attachment can be turned on or off. So I'm realizing like I might be going to the wrong level of detail here, but hopefully that's a little bit helpful, I hope.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. And we have these examples now, so we can look at too to see the code. But yeah, it's very, I like how you've set that up. It's elegant and pretty simple.
Yeah, and if you have suggestions on like simplifying it while still keeping some of the functionality, then it's relatively new code. Like it's only been used in a couple of forms now, so there's probably more room to simplify it than we have so far.
Does the download page look any different? It's,
Oh yeah, good question. Do you want, like when you have multiple files, you mean?
yes.
It does, yes. So you can have a lot of control over how that looks, but yeah, I think we can go through this pretty quickly in the next few minutes. So I'll just try to answer some of the questions so you can see. I don't know if this is necessarily what it should be as the final appearance. But here's
I'm
what
just
it's like
mostly
now.
wondering if the user has an option to click what they want, or,
Yes, that is what we have as the default interface that you would have right now. Let's see. So let me just get you to the end so you can see this is a relatively short form. So let's say I'm going to waive publications. I'm going to add that optional file. Here's the affidavit, separate file from the motion. So I had a chance to edit that separately. I won't, so this is another thing that's optional. So this would trigger an addendum. If I had 3 names, those are shown on the main form, 3 previous names. But if I had 4 or more, that would have to overflow onto an addendum. So this handles that addendum triggering automatically too, but I won't show that feature. And this is the affidavit of indigency, which maybe actually, that's not too hard to qualify for. So maybe I'll just, well, that's still, you have a couple documents, that's good enough. So on the preview, I'm just showing the whole concatenated file because I don't think people need to see this is 4 different documents as much, but they can open it and review each page in one click. That's kind of the most important feature there for reviewing. So that's what we're doing here. That's our default behavior. Obviously, you can customize that. And then if I get to the download page, this is our current default appearance of that page. It's taking a second to generate. That's something else that we've been working on, is doing some of this processing in the background, so it's a bit faster. And it's, that's the big downside, is it's a bit slower right now. So this is what we get by default.
oh, wow,
I'm
that's
not
helpful.
100% happy with this, but yeah, you can see all the separate files.
Mhm.
And you can download them all separately. And then we just have this button here, which is manual. That's something I think we have to figure out how and where to put that button, because it probably makes sense on most situations where there's 5 documents that you're going to just print. You probably don't want to have to do them all separately, but you have that option.
Well, that's good.
I think if I do okay, yeah. So optionally, I could have said I wanted to keep that a Word document in the download and maybe make the view a PDF, but I don't remember. This form doesn't use that feature, but we could have. I think what we need to do is make these buttons horizontal so that it's a little easier to tell where they belong. But
Right.
that's just a change we have to make at some point.
Well, thank you. That's good to see.
Actually be nice. I think there's like, if you saw the make changes button, that actually doesn't let you see all of the different forms at once right now. That's probably something that we should think about how to make possible easily. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think there's definitely like a lot you can do there with that code that it adds a little bit of overhead, but I think basically it solves the first 6 or so months of problems that we had run into, the barriers for working with multiple documents. Because our first big form had 8 different documents plus instructions.
Thanks. That'll be really helpful, especially to have this available when I actually get to that screen to change it.
Great.
I had a question. I don't think we will have time to go through the whole answer, and maybe the full documentation already exists. But I was just adding the jurisdiction, the local jurisdiction, and the court sample courts Excel customized version for Illinois to one of my programs. And I know we went through it, I think in boot camp or at some point we went through step by step. But I'm now trying to go back and do it again. And I just wondered, is it documented anywhere about what you need to make sure you have? These includes these modules, create these objects, et cetera, et cetera.
Are you saying that you did it kind of manually, and so you want to add the right things, or are you just double checking that you have the right stuff, but it was done for you already?
Right. No, that's a good point. I'm now trying to add it manually to another program that was not generated by the Weaver.
We have an issue created to start to track that and then document it. Because we have some other forms that are in the same situation where they were created separately. We want to migrate them so they use the same Weaver code. So I can link you to that issue. But yeah, it's just a little bit in the all right, so in theory, this issue I'm just putting on the chat is where we're going to gather all those steps. So there's some stuff that's just not fully done yet. There's some stuff that just we didn't have time to document yet. So it's totally okay just to ask a question. But our goal is to have everything documented and written down. And and that could include things that aren't complete features that were like, hey, here's the scope of what this will look like when it's done. But it just isn't there yet.
Okay, great. Yeah, I may post the question in Teams because at this point, I'm just looking to do something very simple, which is use that list of our courts to have a pull-down menu in the interview to say, which county are you filing in? And it'll have all the 102 court counties there. And I want to use the information from that Illinois courts spreadsheet. Great. All right. Well, this is good. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I think we hit 2 o'clock, so we probably should end there, but we'll see you all on Teams.
Thank you again. That was really helpful.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's good. Thanks. Take care, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
You too.
Cheers.
Bye.